So intimacy, this is what we're talking about today, intimacy. And for those of you who have been fortunate enough to spend 28 days in a facility, they don't actually do that anymore, but it used to be, they'd take you for 28 days. Not only that, they take you for 28 days multiple times. But one of the things that one of the counselors, one way or another, would always say, you've got intimacy issues. You need to you need to learn how to be intimate. And then they'd say this. They'd go, into me see. Intimacy, to be transparent. I thought it was corny when I heard it, but it really is. It really does illustrate the point, right? to be transparent, to be genuine, to be true. This is the idea, and of course it goes along with the 11th tradition, and this is of course about attraction, not promotion. It's about maintaining a personal anonymity in public spaces. And really what it's about is it's about not taking on more than what you are. So in terms of an organization that you might belong to, it would mean that if you are talking to someone about that particular organization in public, you wouldn't act like you were like the spokesman, the expert. You know, you're just there. And this is why what we always do is say, don't go by yourself. Take somebody else with you. Otherwise, it's your personality that you're presenting and your interpretation, and take somebody else with you and stick to the literature. But stick to the purpose, right? So this is when we're talking about a group, an organization that we're a part of, that then we're representing to someone else. This principle of intimacy, of being genuine, being real, transparent, would mean that we wouldn't present any more than the purpose of that organization. So if we think about it in terms of like what NA does, NA says that this is what we want to communicate, is that an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, lose a desire to use, and find a new way to live. And then don't promise anything more than that. Like, don't make unrealistic. So when you got a company, you present what you do as a company. Don't promise more than you can deliver. They call this in business, they call it set proper expectations, right? So you're not going to say more than you can give. So, and the idea of being attractive rather than promotional, that promotional seems to imply, although it's a neutral word, but it has, the connotation of it has come to mean some kind of a slick presentation where you are, bells and whistles and all this kind of stuff, whereas attraction implies that when you give a true message, that it touches something within your audience that makes them want more, that makes them want to know more, to be more a part of whatever it is that you're presenting. So in an organization, this is really a good idea, because what happens is you don't get in trouble. You don't get yourself in trouble because you don't promise more than you can deliver. And you don't set expectations that are unrealistic, that can't be met. But usually, generally, what we talk about here on Sunday is how do we take this and apply it to our lives. Well, this is what in the 11th instruction that I give in the marriage ceremony, we say, take off your mask. Take off your mask. Abandon art and artifice. Be genuine and true. So this is the only one we've got. Don't be wearing this in public, okay? It disturbs people. Oh, so they got the God corner over here. We had to move it to make room for the B3 where it needed to sit. And we got all the different, we want more, by the way. We need more icons from different other religions to like gather up here so we get this huge mountain of stuff. But I noticed when I came home that the shaman here, now some people think that he looks angry, right? But I'm saying he's not angry. He's been sitting there in meditation and he's going, yes, I finally got it. No? Okay. Anyway, the guy that did this also did I was just going to say that I may go off camera here for a second, but don't worry. Hope I can reach. Oh, here, can I go to the end of my leash? All right, so we've got all this stuff up here. Everybody's got their own approach to this spiritual path, right? And occasionally, and so we're all different in that regard. Even those of us who come here and we've got some common things in mind, we're really on our own path. And what we're doing here is really not trying to convert anybody, but sharing ideas, and you take what you need and leave the rest, so to speak. But there's one thing that we all do that this picture represents, and that is we all occasionally stick our heads up our own butts. So I'm thinking that this should go back up here. It is not the most fruitful spiritual approach. But from time to time, that's where we find ourselves. All right. I know. I don't know how appropriate it was, but it's okay. It's all right. So, see, this is it. I'm being genuine and true. This is what you see is what you get. So this is the secret of this tradition, is to just be who we are. To not try or feel a need to have to be something else. To be, in other words, to come to that place where we're comfortable enough with ourselves to be open to others, to be able to establish intimacy. And I will tell you, and I know it's a stereotype, but you probably already know it, that for men this can be quite difficult because most of us think that intimacy means sex. Now, we know sex can be intimate, but it could be something else too. So, but that's not what we're talking about. Although we could say it's a side benefit of learning how to do this, right? But the idea of intimacy is to be able to allow closeness, to be able to be vulnerable to those that we trust. And this is really the secret, is to build our base of trust. And that's really what our spiritual pursuit is about. Because our only problem, the only problem we have, as we've discovered many times, is self-centeredness, is isolation, the sense of being alone. And the reason that we are alone and that we feel alone is that we don't trust. Not only don't we trust, we don't trust the outside world in so many ways because it seems like a dangerous place. And we don't trust people because we feel, well, we've been hurt. We've been taken advantage of, or we could be. We could be hurt. We could be taken advantage of. Generally, the feeling comes from some past experience that we've had where we extended our trust and then, it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. And so we say, well, I'll never do that again. I'll pull that back. And a lot of this is subconscious too, but to expand our base of trust means that then we would be able to experience intimacy, or let me just say it this way, a genuine relationship with another person. So I've told this many times, but we have a model, not just in the country, but amongst many of us here, where there was probably a time when we attended or patronized various establishments where drink was served. And we would go there, we might, put something a little bit nicer on, want to present ourselves in a certain way. We go down to the corner bar and looking to meet somebody. Now, we may be acting like that's not what we're going for, but generally there's some loneliness in us and we're looking to meet somebody. And so we get there and we sit and we're looking around for, that person. We're sure that sometimes we're sure that perfect person is going to be there. And for some of us, it was the perfect person for the night, not some kind of, hey, I'm not talking about a commitment here. I'm just talking about, but then for others, it's like, yeah, Mr. Goodbar is going to be there, right? So then we act. We start acting. We act the way that we think that this person that we want to attract would like us to act. And so we become this persona. And of course, for men, there's a whole other role that's got to be played when you go to the bar too. I mean, you gotta like have a certain air about you so that people aren't looking at you like you're some kind of victim or something too, right? So you got both of these things in play. And let's say that you had a good night. Well, we'll call it good, relatively good, and you actually did meet that person. Yes, and the next morning you wake up and you go, "What the hell did I do?" But yeah, you go. Let's say it really works out. You go home, you get this thing going, and you decide, well, maybe we'll do this again, and it starts to become something, and then there starts to be cracks in the armor, and maybe not the real self, but part of your personality starts to show itself, the part that you weren't really showing before, and the other person, the same thing's going on, and then you go, who is this person? And they're going, who is this person, right? So because nobody's being themselves, and then the whole thing, goes into some kind of wreckage, and everybody's sitting around trying to figure out what happened. I know it's oversimplified. There's all kinds of different ways that it can work out. One person, as I said, one person could have the idea that this is just, this is a fling, and the other person could have this idea as this is going to be some lifelong relationship. That's going to cause a problem pretty soon. But in any event, nobody's themselves. And I'm just going to suggest that that is not the model for a long-term relationship. So we want to try to learn. Now the other thing is, fueled by drink, who the hell knows who's going to come out? I mean, for me, I'm just saying, some people, I remember when I went to the training to be able to teach the DUI classes, they put this model up, right? And they said, now this is what normal people do when they go to the bar and have a drink, is that they have a drink, and then they start on their second one, and they get to this place that they called the beginning of the euphoric mindset. Like they get a little bit of euphoria. They feel up, and they're more social and a little more talkative, and just a little bit of the inhibition goes away. And they said, normal people, they want to stay right there. But people like me, people like a lot of people I know, not pointing anybody out, but what happens is that we go right past that point without even stopping. We're just like, we don't even know what that, once upon a time, we knew what that point was. But not anymore. We just go right on by it, and we go to it. So in that state of mind, things aren't going to be good no matter. Go ahead, act like yourself. It's still going to turn out badly. So okay. But we're past that now. Now here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to make an assumption that we are not, that either we've grown out of it or we've practiced our way out of that kind of a situation. And but we have these relationships in our lives, and we have romantic relationships, we have friendships, and a lot of times we still get caught in that trap, that we are acting in the relationship the way we think the person that we're with wants us to act, or we're acting in a way that we think is going to get us what we want. We're putting on a persona, we're doing different things to get our way, so to speak. All of it is about getting our way. I mean, because the whole deal is about getting the acceptance and the return, the reciprocal emotions that we're looking for, or it could be just stuff that we want. I mean, and not just emotional support, we're looking for them to do something else for us. Got some work that needs to be done or something. But these ulterior motives keep us from intimacy. So it's a practice. It's a practice to expand that base of trust. And this is really the truth. The more of our brothers and sisters that we can trust, the more comfortable we will be in the world. And this means, and actually, ultimately, we need to get to the place where we're not making the judgments that keep us from withholding our trust, and we're just able to extend it. In other words, be vulnerable. Now, I think this is a practice that needs to expand over time, because we've got to learn how to do this. So those that are closest to us, we start extending a little more trust to them, right? And no matter what they do, even when they do something that says we shouldn't have trusted them, we still give them our trust, but we don't put them in a position where they can harm us or perhaps themselves. But we still want to have this sense of trust. I don't want to be walking around suspicious of the people that I'm with. I want to be, and ultimately, as I said, I want to see if I see the face of Christ in everyone, then that means that I am fully trusting. Now, we're talking about a goal, okay? We're talking about something that we are aspiring to, moving toward. Not something that we're going to be able to practice perfectly, because the fact of the matter is, if we actually could see, if right now we saw the face of Christ in everyone, and we did, as a result of that, have that total trust, we wouldn't be here. I'm saying that when we get to that point, we're not in this particular world anymore. We'll talk more about that later. Not today. But this is still the practice. This is the movement towards that place because that is what establishes peace of mind. So physically, intimacy means that I can actually get close to somebody and not feel like I've got to crunch myself up. Now, some of you have heard me talk about this before, but this is really important principle. I need to be able to sit. If I go to the theater on the opening day of a film and it's very crowded and somebody sits down next to me that I don't know, it needs to be okay that I'm actually touching them. I don't have to crunch myself up. Now, I probably shouldn't put my hand on their knee or their thigh. Probably be a good idea, but if I just kind of kept a little bit to myself, but it's okay that we're touching. We're sitting right next to each other. It's okay, just relax. This is a practice. Just relax, it's okay. You don't have to say anything. You could though. I mean, one of the things that makes it easier is to actually say, oh, hi, when they sit down. It's actually a person sitting down next to you. On the bus, man, take this bus into O'Hare, and sometimes the bus is crowded. Now, people have staked out their seats, right? Everybody's staked out there, unless they're with someone. If they're alone, they've all staked out their seats. They put a bag next to them so nobody sits down next to them. Everybody's so on the way back from the airport the other night, the bus was full, and I got on there and I felt that, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to sit next to somebody. I mean, the thought actually went through my mind. And then when I went and sat down next to the person, oh, he was put out. That somebody actually said, I mean, yeah, he didn't say anything, but I could just see it. That it wasn't, he said, yeah, see, it had to be me. Why couldn't it have been the guy behind me, right? That he sat down next to. It had to be me, took my spread out room here. It's okay, just relax. And by the time we got back here, we were talking. I mean, it was okay, because I just relaxed. Amazingly, when I relaxed, after a little while, he relaxed. So when I get on the airplane, sometimes I actually have to fly coach. But the seats are smaller, right? And of course, I've been off my white flour and sugar abstinence, so I'm spreading out. And so when I sit next to somebody, I'm spreading out over the seat, right? And of course, we're in America, so the majority of people are also spreading out over their seat. And you're going to touch. And so I just tell them right off the bat, as soon as they sit down, look, we're going to touch. It's going to be okay, right? And then they laugh, and it's okay. So, it's all right. Nobody's getting hurt here. When you get into an elevator, practice this. It's okay. You don't have to crunch yourself into the corner to avoid touching the other person. Now again, we got to remember, people are sensitive. And you can't just be running up to people, hugging them or grabbing them or doing all this kind of stuff. but just to be able to be relaxed. And you know what? I do have to say for women that some of us, there's some folks out there that are a little bit more disturbed than others, and you have to kind of be careful with, you know, how you interact with people. But I'm saying that from a place of peace of mind and the ability to release the fear, it is unlikely that the interaction is going to be anything but pleasant. So physical intimacy, it's okay to sit next to somebody and actually touch them. It's all right. But then we have the emotional. You could think about this as mental, but it's emotional intimacy is to be able to communicate with people in an open way. So, well, those of us who go to meetings, here's what we learn. We go to meetings, we never said a word to anybody. I mean, one of our greatest assets was the ability to keep your mouth shut, right? This is like people would trust you if they knew that you would never say anything to anybody about anything, right? So you go to meetings and then they teach you to stop doing that. we teach each other, you know, you need to open up a little bit. You got to say something. Don't just sit there and be quiet. You got to say something. So then we trust a little bit, and we learn how to talk a little bit at the meeting. We say something, and then before you know it, any person on the street, we're ready to tell them our whole life story. Now, what the heck happened here? This is not what we're after. This is not intimacy, okay? So what we learn is to share what's appropriate. And what I mean by that is to share what's helpful. And so here's the trick to it. Shut up for a minute. Shut up. Just relax. Let them talk. Open yourself to hear what the other person has to say. Hey, this will work in any relationship. One where it's just beginning or one that you've had for a long time. Try it. Just shut up. I know sometimes you want to say that to your partner.